If you don't got 100 million for me, don't even talk to me about it. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to hear. Basically, let me translate, because we know Crawford don't like to do too much trash talk.
Where does Canelo go from here, Henry?
He needs to rematch. If I'm Canelo, I want to rematch Terence Crawford. He got schooled, bro. He got outboxed, dude, by Terence Crawford. And I know that he's itching to get that one back. The first time he fought Triple G, he came back the second time, and he legit beat Triple G.
Once in a lifetime fight. It doesn't need to be a rematch. I think Bud would do worse the next fight. He would put it on Canelo a little worse than that, because that style of fight, I don't think he beats someone like Terence Crawford. But if I'm Terence Crawford, of course I'll fight him again. But this time, I'm the A side. I think Terence Crawford is going to be more confident next time, knowing that I can punch with this guy. I can take his shot. I'm faster.
He fought Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
He didn't do what the last dude did, just run. He threw at him. I'm going to call your bluff, bro. I'm going to fight you.
You're going to want to sit down for this. Terence Crawford has officially agreed to a rematch with Canelo Alvarez, but there's a catch. And it's one that has stunned promoters, frustrated fans, and put the organizers in a serious bind. This stipulation is so extreme, it could either make the fight legendary or completely derail it. After weeks of speculation, quiet talks, and reports circulating in Mexican media, the rematch that seemed impossible is suddenly back on the table. But Crawford isn't stepping into the ring unless the numbers meet a figure that most fighters can only dream of in their entire careers. Let's break it down. Multiple insiders and a recent TV report reveal that Canelo Alvarez has already made it clear to his team, facing Crawford again is his top priority for 2026. He's looking for redemption, wants his titles back, and is eager to erase the memory of one of the toughest nights of his career. Crawford got wind of this and responded in a way that shocked the boxing world. If the offer isn't $100 million, the fight won't happen. Not $60 million. Not $80 million. A full $100 million, non-negotiable. Both Crawford and his trainer Bernie have confirmed this stance. Now, the ball is in the other camp's court. Will Canelo and his team be willing to invest 9 figures in a rematch that some fans felt didn't live up to expectations the first time around?
Terence Crawford is Terence Crawford is demanding Turki Alalshikh to give him $100 million in order for the Canelo rematch to go down. Now, there is a rematch clause going on between Canelo and Crawford. Obviously, everybody knows that, but if he's not going to get the $100 million, that I'm going to be honest with you, I think he truly deserves $100 million for everything that he has gone through in the sport of boxing. The $100 million, number one. But if he doesn't get it, all he has to do is just wait out the contract. There's terms in the contract. Now, in regards to terms, we don't know what the terms hold. I don't know if it's 6 months, a year, whatever the case may be. And if not, if they don't come up with an agreement to fight and Crawford doesn't get $100 million, if Canelo then decides not to fight him and decides to go somewhere else, then the contract is voided out. It's completely over and done with, and Crawford just can go about his business. But Crawford, stay on the $100 million, and on top of that, the fight should be in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm telling you, $100 million, and the fight should be in Omaha, Nebraska. Let me know in the comments what you think, yo.
This isn't hype. This isn't speculation. This is the deal. People sometimes forget that Crawford didn't just win, he dominated Canelo. It wasn't a close call or a controversial decision. He controlled the fight, outmaneuvered him, and made one of boxing's biggest stars look sluggish, off balance, and uncertain. And he did all of this after moving up 2 weight classes, becoming the first male fighter in the 4-belt era to secure undisputed titles in 3 divisions. Bottom line, Canelo came up short, and Crawford walked away with the victory. Plain and simple.
What was his power like? Have you been hit by anybody that strong before?
I've been hit harder.
No, in a real fight, not a sparring.
In a real fight. Not Avanesian, but Mean Machine hit harder than Canelo, to me. To be honest.
Terence. Congratulations.
From Crawford's point of view, a rematch isn't necessary. He doesn't have anything to prove, he's already cemented his place in boxing history.
I saw you before the fight, the Crawford-Canelo fight, and you had a Cavs hat on. This time you've got a GOAT hat on. Is that how you're feeling? I know it says Muhammad Ali, but is that how you're feeling about Bud's performance, about his whole career?
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that way, man. GOAT. Greatest of all time, man. You gotta give it to him. You gotta give it to him. You gotta give it to his coaches. Not just me, Saul, Red, Bernie, Chet, nutritionists. Everybody played a part.
Canelo said he's way better than Mayweather. What do you think to that?
Who, Terence?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Of course. Of course he is.
While Canelo is chasing redemption, Crawford is focused on one thing: getting paid. He's asking for $100 million. No shortcuts, no favors, no legacy discount. He wants compensation that reflects the value of his performance. And let's be real, in an era where fighters like Jake Paul are cashing in massive paydays, Crawford isn't holding back from asking for what he's worth.
Double fake to your left. Double fake to your right. Double fake to your left.
You.
Step back, rhythm. Step back, rhythm. Rhythm, y'all.
Still got some abs.
Double fake, double fake. Double fake.
Turki Alalshikh isn't just another promoter, he's currently the most influential figure in boxing. He's been instrumental in revitalizing the heavyweight division, bringing rival promotions to the table, and making previously impossible fights a reality. With his resources, influence, and vision, he has the power to make big events happen, and he knows this rematch would capture worldwide attention.
This fight will not happen if we are not involved, as Gia Riyadh sees in Saudi Arabia. This is truth, because even with what the relationship with Netflix, and we are very happy about it, still this fight costs more and more.
Canelo is chasing redemption. Mexico wants redemption. And Crawford? He's after a payday big enough to retire for good. If anyone in the boxing world could realistically write a 9-figure check, it's Turki. But here's the catch. Insiders say the first matchup didn't deliver the kind of fireworks fans were hoping for. It was smart, technical, and strategic, but not the explosive showdown many expected. Fans wanted a war in the ring, and what they got was more of a chess match. That's exactly where the risk lies for a rematch at that price.
It's a whole lot of confusion online about why you gave them belts back. People really think you got them belts and you were supposed to keep them and you gave them back. Belts is like a trophy, you know, so of course after the fight we get the belts, we get to take pictures with the belts, but them his personal belts. I'm gonna get my own personal belts, but we gotta return the belts. So the respect that I have for him, just like I have for Spence, you know, just like I had for any other champ that I took their belts from. I personally wanted to give the belts back to Canelo. You know, that's a sign of respect. So, you know, I'm looking for him. I'm like, hey, you know, where Canelo at? They're like, oh, he in the press conference. They didn't want to let me in at first because they thought that we was trying to, you know what I mean, be on bullshit or whatever the case may be. So I like, hey, man, open the door, man. I'm trying to give him his belts back. Like, I can come by myself because, you know, I was with everybody and they was just like, all right, you know what I mean? We don't want y'all trying to come in here and bombard his press. I said, I wait, you know what I mean? Like, it's all respect, you know, and I just, you know, told him, thank you again, you know what I mean? This is like a sign of respect. I want to be the one to give you your belts back because, you know, you didn't have to fight me, and it's just, you know, a sign of respect.
That's one thing I've always respected about you, bro, is like, you know, you are a competitor, but when you win, you don't disrespect nobody. You don't try to, you know, drag nobody through the mud. Like the same thing with Spence. You know, all the talk that was had and all the stuff that was said, not just from him, but just fan bases. You could have easily did that, you know, and been like, I told y'all. And you did do that, but it wasn't in a disrespectful way. And you probably could have celebrated more and you didn't, bro. So I respect that about you. You know when to be a competitor and when to be a man and say, hey, you know, I've done enough.
Let's be honest. Many fans and analysts feel this rematch isn't needed. Crawford has already figured out Canelo, claimed the titles, and secured his place in boxing history.
I believe they have a rematch clause. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of wording because Canelo doesn't enter a fight without some kind of wording in terms of a rematch clause. But he's just not going to beat Terence Crawford. It's the style's all wrong for him, the movement's all wrong for him. And that's what I said. You know, going into the fight, I really believed Crawford would win in the style that he did. And then just as it got a bit closer at the weigh-in, I was like, my heart was like, Canelo's got this, you know, and but deep down I kind of knew that it was all wrong for him. And to be honest with you, Canelo knew it was all wrong for him. You know, I had the conversation with Canelo Alvarez probably, I don't know, a year ago, about Terence Crawford, and he was like, "No, why would I fight Terence Crawford?" Like, you know, he hates that style. And when he fought Charlo, I remember him being really disappointed that Charlo just moved and moved and moved. And that's why he ended up fighting Munguia and Berlanga, because they're guys that wouldn't do that and they'd stand in front of him, and that suits him down to the ground. Anyone that's got movement, like Saul, like Crawford, like, you know, he really struggles against. And when he was a bit younger and fresher, he could probably get away with it and cut it off, and, you know, but then you see guys like Bivol and, you know, Crawford and these guys beat him because of that movement. And I don't know what he does again. I mean, you know, the biggest money fight out there for him is the rematch with Crawford.
Most importantly, there's nothing in Canelo's first performance that indicates he could overcome Crawford in a rematch. Size didn't make a difference. Power didn't make a difference. Experience didn't make a difference. Crawford was just the superior fighter that night.
You know what, sometimes you try and your body cannot go, right? That's my frustration. Maybe I can figure out Crawford, but my body cannot go anymore. So I try it, but my body just not let me go.
Promoters are now asking the obvious question. If the first fight wasn't a blockbuster and the second could play out the same way, why risk $100 million? Especially considering Crawford is already 38 and isn't known for delivering chaotic, crowd-pleasing brawls. That price tag is massive and risky.
It's wild, because like if you look at Floyd's resume, it's much deeper than Crawford's. And Floyd was faster and he had a better defense and all that stuff. But Floyd picked and chose when he fought guys, especially once he left lightweight. He wiped out the junior lights, bring them. Lightweight, he jumps up to Jose Luis Castillo first thing. A lot of people think he lost the first fight, then I didn't, but then he won the rematch. But once he left lightweight, he was careful about when he fought guys. So even though his resume is deeper with names, people remember, yeah, but he didn't want it with certain dudes at certain times. Crawford, we all witnessed, even though the resume is thin in certain ways, he wanted it with everyone the whole time.
Oh, yes.
That makes a difference to people.
This is where it gets really interesting. Canelo's legacy is built on being boxing's biggest star, the fighter who takes on the toughest challenges and dominates entire divisions. Crawford threw a wrench into that. The loss didn't just affect his record, it shook his image. For the first time in years, Canelo didn't look invincible. He looked human, slower, beatable, and vulnerable.
He needs to make a change, I think. I would love to see the rematch. I think in the rematch, if he comes back with the hunger that he needs, he could beat Crawford. Because Crawford, you know, is very talented, but I think Canelo could beat him. Canelo's strong, man. Canelo's strong. Canelo could take a good punch. So I think he could just go and don't respect his punch and throw punches even though you're gonna get hit. But don't give up. Keep going until you hit him.
According to reports, Canelo has made it clear to his team that he can't stand the thought of finishing his career with Crawford holding the final victory over him. He's chasing redemption, aiming to reclaim his titles, and determined to prove to the world that he can still beat the very best. His motivation is undeniable.
I beat this guy, it's an excuse, I beat this guy, you know, he's too young or whatever. So I'm never really gonna give my full respect until afterwards. Yes, you know, it's a lot of people that's changing their narrative, like, man, y'all watching something great right now and we not appreciating it. And it's sad to say that we waking up at the tail end of his career. You know, we really didn't realize it until now when he's like doing extraordinary stuff, like going up 2 weight classes to fight the best fighter in that division, the #1 guy that's the face of boxing, you know. And the way that I handled that, people like, oh man, something had to be wrong. Canelo had to be washed, or Canelo just wasn't in it. And I see people saying, oh, Turkey paid for Canelo to lose, you know. So I just think, you know, when you that much better than the competition,
You know, people not going to give you credit until they sit down and look at it and just be like, man, that dude was good.
But the big question remains, is a $100 million price tag really justified? Crawford isn't the hungry underdog he once was. He's collected every belt, earned every accolade, and achieved historic milestones. There's nothing left for him to prove. On top of that, he has plenty of other options, matchups with rising stars, middleweight champions, or even the possibility of stepping away from the sport altogether.
Would you consider going back down to 154 and face Tirana as the guy who prepared Canelo Alvarez for this fight?
Nope. I ain't going down 154.
Crawford could walk away from boxing at any time and never look back, but a rematch with Canelo could be his final fight and the most lucrative payday of his career.
I think Crawford took it way more serious than Canelo, which is kind of weird because, you know, the amount of money that Canelo was making. And I know all these people say, oh, yeah, you know, talking shit about Canelo. I'm not talking shit about him. He just didn't look like he really prepared 100%. He's throwing 10 punches around, or I think it was his ego is that big that he thought that, oh, I'm just going to walk through him, catch him with a good shot, and it's going to be done. As you can see, Crawford is a different type of fighter. Not only does he have the boxing IQ, he has that dog in him. He was in there, he was brawling with Canelo like in the 8th, 9th, getting the best out of him. Boxing, he's epitome of a great boxer. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in that fight, you know what I mean? If you really want to make something come true and you really believe it, you can make it come true. And then the other lesson is don't let your ego get the best out of you. Don't think that you don't have to prepare because you're a bigger fighter. You know what I mean? That shit will bite you in the ass.
For Canelo, this is about legacy. For Crawford, it's about business. And when legacy clashes with business, negotiations can get complicated. Here's what everyone's thinking but not saying. The public isn't clamoring for a rematch. Crawford's victory was too decisive. There was no controversy, no dramatic knockdowns, and no explosive moments. Casual fans found the fight dull, while hardcore fans respected the skill but admitted it lacked the fireworks.
First of all, congratulations to Crawford. That was beautiful. You know, that was a beautiful performance. But leading into the fight, I just thought the weight difference. Canelo's been active. He was inactive. I knew it would be close, but I thought Canelo would just be a little bit stronger. And you will see the difference in the punches. Just like I thought he would back him up a little bit. But Crawford did a good job with just using that jab, putting his punches together and using his angles. I think that was the most important. I think that's what he did the best. I feel like, easy to say, but I feel like if Canelo would have used his jab a little bit, it would have made it. It would have been. I think he would have did way better. I feel like he was just loading up too much. I feel like if he just used his jab a little bit more and just try to put his punches together without power, he's a natural puncher, he would have did a lot better, but he was loading up. So Crawford was just blocking it and coming back for 3 soft touches. It looked like he wasn't even putting on behind it. He was just touching him the whole fight. And he just boxed him. It was just a beautiful performance.
To justify a 9-figure fight, promoters need massive global demand. And right now, that demand is lukewarm. The first fight didn't generate the hype many expected, and there's a risk the second fight could underperform as well. A $100 million price tag might not make financial sense, which makes Crawford's condition even tougher to accept. But here's the thing, Crawford knows exactly what he's doing. By asking for $100 million, he's essentially saying, if you want me to risk my belt at 38 against a younger, stronger fighter seeking revenge, you'd better pay more than anyone ever has. This isn't greed, it's strategy. And in boxing, strategy is everything. If Turki agrees to Crawford's terms and the rematch happens, it would send shockwaves through the sport. It would prove that fighters can hold the negotiation power, that legacy fights still matter, and that stars can command historic paydays. Boxing could be entering a new financial era. On the flip side, if Turki refuses and the rematch falls through, it sends a very different message. Promoters won't overpay for technical, methodical fights. Legacy bouts could give way to younger, more explosive fighters. The Crawford style may not generate massive revenue, and the sport could shift toward performance-based pay. Either way, the landscape of boxing is evolving. Canelo has already told his team he wants the rematch. He hated losing, being outclassed, and seeing his performance judged worldwide. He's also under a 4-fight deal with Turkey, and this rematch fits the blockbuster profile that networks crave.
Canelo Alvarez wants Terence Crawford rematch. I expect nothing less from Canelo. He wants to get that fight back because, well, number one, it's a somewhat advantageous matchup at 168 for him, and there's not many other matchups at 168 for Canelo right now that offer him any sort of advantages. We'll look at the first fight, and the things that plagued Canelo were essentially the things that plague him against most boxers. His flat feet, his lack of movement, his lack of volume. He couldn't get to Terence. He was overextending. He was getting caught with counter shots as he overextended. So what would be different if they fought again? The only thing that I could see that Canelo may be able to do some different things with, you would have to fight Terence Crawford like he fought Sergey Kovalev at 175. That's genuinely what he would have to do. He'd have to be lighter on his feet, he'd have to throw more combinations, and he'd have to be quicker with his hand.
Canelo has to confront a tough reality. Crawford is older, wiser, and hungrier than he anticipated. Meanwhile, Canelo hasn't looked like his dominant self in years. Another loss could deal a serious blow to his legacy.
Crawford did his thing. He looked good. He looked good. He looked strong. He carried the weight well. I mean, he looked good. Can't say nothing bad about it.
Were you a little bit shocked about, how he beat him? Were you a little bit shocked how he beat him? Even because he went up 3 weight classes. Were you just surprised?
Nah, I wasn't shocked. Canelo's not a big guy anyway. Canelo got it. That started at 47 and came up to 168. So. I feel like Crawford, he walks around probably 169, 170-ish, shit, whatever. So I feel like it was kind of easy for him to make the weight, and he looked good. He handled it well.
After that fight, there was a lot of talk about Crawford's place in boxing history. You think now, after that win, considered a goal or all-time great?
He is one of the greats, for sure.
Sources now indicate that Crawford has made his final call. He's willing to do the rematch, but only if the contract guarantees him $100 million. No negotiations, no backup plans, no compromises. Crawford's team is essentially saying, pay him what he's worth or it's not happening. Believe it or not, insiders suggest Turkey is actually giving it serious consideration. At this point, the decision is entirely in Turkey's hands. Canelo wants the fight. Crawford wants it for a price. The boxing world is divided. One thing is clear, the rematch will only happen if Crawford's steep condition is met. And if Turkey agrees, it would become one of the biggest financial gambles in boxing history. So, fans, what's your take? Is Crawford worth $100 million? Should Turkey greenlight the rematch? Will Canelo get redemption, or could he end up losing even worse this time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates. I'll see you in the next one.